The courtroom felt suspended in time, each tick of the ancient wall clock echoing like a heartbeat through the hush. Pens scraped softly on paper, but the only other sound was the measured breathing of those watching. All eyes were locked on Aidan Brooks, 35, seated in his wheelchair with hands folded and shoulders squared, his expression inscrutable. By his side sat Vala, a German shepherd of lean muscle and gleaming black and tan coat, poised as if statuesque, but for eyes sharper than any blade, unblinking as they tracked every movement across the room. The prosecutor's voice rang out, theatrical and steely. Ladies and gentlemen, this isn't about medals or honourable service. It's about a man who, despite trauma, made a choice. Trespass, attack, unleash a combat-trained animal on a civilian. She pointed at Vala. This dog was bred for war, not community. A murmur rippled through the gallery. Sympathy struggled with skepticism. Yet Aidan's stillness spoke volumes. He could no longer react the way he once had. He'd lost much more than limbs in combat, and now every word was a mountain to climb. Behind the lectern, his court-appointed counsel shifted uneasily beneath the prosecutor's glare. Across the room, David Renner, the alleged victim, radiated confidence as he recalled the moment. He burst into my yard without warning. The dog charged me. No provocation. Vala's ears twitched. The dog's gaze sharpened. A quiet growl, so controlled that only those nearest heard it, rolled from his throat. That was all the cue Aidan needed. His hand moved with purpose. Thumb pressed into palm. 2 fingers curled. A silent code forged in years of combat and recovery. At that signal, Vala rose and advanced, paws clicking softly on the tile. A hush descended as the judge's voice cracked the silence. Control your animal, Mr. Brooks. Yet neither man nor dog wavered. Vala halted 2 feet from Renner, then let out a single sharp bark. The witness flinched. With a deliberate sniff, the dog nudged at Renner's coat flap, extracting a small, plastic dinosaur keychain smeared with something dark and ominous. Gasps erupted. The judge rose, eyes narrowed. "What is that?" Renner stammered. I have no idea." The judge, voice cold and firm, ordered the bailiff to test the object. "Court will recess immediately. That animal has just upended everything." As the gavel fell, the echoes of distant gunfire stampeded through Aidan's memory, transporting him back to a red sands of Helmand province. Dust that clung like ghosts to his mind, refusing to shake free. He remembered himself as he'd been, platoon sergeant, steady under fire, every decision a lifeline for his men. And by his side was Vala, then a young, mercilessly driven military working dog, trained to sniff out IEDs buried beneath sands and silence alike. They were a single unit, heartbeat synchronized, movement choreographed through necessity. Until that day of the secondary device, the blast that hurled Aidan against concrete, that shredded Vala's sight as much as his flesh. Aidan could still taste the grit on his tongue, still feel the heat of burning flak, still hear Vala's whimper as the dog crawled to him, one eye closed, refusing to leave his side. They were airlifted together, soldier and dog. From the desert to the sterile lights of a US military hospital. Months of recovery followed. Physical therapy for Aidan's broken spine, speech therapy for shrapnel-scarred vocal cords, and veterinary care for Vala's injured vision. Word came that the military planned to retire Vala, but Aidan wouldn't hear of it. He fought with quiet resolve, navigating red tape and medical clearances until the transfer was approved. Broken together, they arrived in a modest Pittsburgh apartment. No fanfare, no crowds. Just 2 survivors learning that peace felt more fragile than battle. Therapy became their shared ritual, as Aidan laboured to transfer himself from bed to wheelchair. Vala learned to brace his weight, stabilise his body, respond to touch. Their communication evolved into an intimate sign language. Military gestures refined into personal codes. Each tremor in Aidan's fingers a command, each flicker in his eyes a cue. Vala's loyalty was not mere training. It was instinct tempered by empathy, a living testament to their mutual survival. Yet their bond extended beyond each other. Aidan quietly helped neighbours mend fences, repaired broken children's bicycles, and donated old combat boots to the local homeless shelter. Vala accompanied him always, never just a service dog, but a comrade who had shared heat, fear, and redemption. Their acts of kindness were silent ripples in the community, unnoticed by most yet profound to those touched by them. One night, as the block lay in its usual hush, like a plush blanket settling over tired streets. Vala's ears snapped forward. The dog stiffened beside Aiden's chair. A low, warning growl rumbled from his chest. Aiden opened the window. At first, only the night air responded. Then came a strangled sob, the fragile sound of a child's despair slicing through darkness. The rented house next door belonged to a young couple and their toddler, a family Aiden barely knew beyond polite waves. Instinct drove him to his security camera, installed to watch the alley between homes. On the grainy feed, a man's shadow dragged a small arm into a dim room. Kicks and flailing preceded the sickening slap. Aiden froze, heart pounding, then dialed 911 with hands that trembled more from rage than fear. "I'm reporting child abuse," he told the dispatcher. Protocol demanded clear visual proof, not just sound. Without it, they could do little unless immediate danger was evident. Aiden's protest died as he stared at the phone. He did not sleep that night. At dawn, a knock startled him. There stood the little boy, barefoot, shivering, a swollen cheek blossoming into bruises. The child, no more than 6, met Aiden's eyes and stepped forward, curling into the man's lap. Aiden wrapped him in a blanket, offered water, then bypassed protocol. He called Child Protective Services directly. While they waited, Aiden introduced the boy to Vala, whose gentle wag told the child he was safe now. Moments later, the boy's father burst through Aiden's door, face red with fury. "You think you can steal my kid?" he snarled, advancing. Aiden tried to block him, but paralysis slowed his guard. Vala sprang, a flash of fur and force, positioning between man and veteran. A single, precise nip to the father's arm halted him without maiming. By the time CPS security arrived, the man was shouting charges: kidnapping, trespass, weaponized dog attack, painting Aiden as a dangerous veteran undone by PTSD. When the second trial opened, local media had branded Aiden the unstable war hero. In place of David Renner stood Malene Renner, the boy's mother, coached and calm as she denied threats or trespass. Aiden sat silent, jaw clenched. Then, mid-testimony, he raised his right hand, fingers curling into their secret sign. Vala's ears pricked, he rose and walked toward the stand. The bailiff hesitated until the judge silently allowed the approach. Malene's hand slipped to her coat pocket. Vala nosed the fabric and extracted a small blue-string star necklace, cracked and dotted with dried blood. The courtroom gasped. "Miss Renner, do you recognize this?" the judge demanded. The mother, voice quivering, denied ownership. From the back, a soft child's voice answered, "That's mine." The little boy, trembling but determined, stepped forward, tears tracing clean lines down his cheeks. He flung himself at Vala's neck, sobbing that the dog had saved him. Vala offered a single quiet whine, then lay down at Aiden's feet as the judge leaned back, eyes glistening. "I've seen trained dogs obey commands, but I've never seen one deliver justice," she said. With firm resolve, she ordered an investigation into the Renner household and suspended all charges against Aiden Brooks. Days later, David and Malene Renner were arrested as evidence of abuse mounted. The boy was placed in protective custody, safe at last. The video of Vala's courtroom revelation went viral, amassing 12 million views in a week and making headlines nationwide. "Silent hero dog exposes abuse," proclaimed major outlets. Offers flooded in. Book deals, documentary pitches, talk show appearances. Aiden declined them all. "This story isn't for profit," he told one reporter. Instead, he used donations from supporters to launch Hands and Paws, a small non-profit dedicated to training service dogs for veterans facing speech impairments, PTSD, and physical disabilities. Veterans who, like Aiden once did, felt abandoned by the world. Within a year, dozens found partners and purpose, guided by Vala's living example. On a crisp autumn afternoon, Aiden rolled into an elementary school auditorium as part of Veterans Week. The children sat wide-eyed under fluorescent lights, hanging on his every measured word. When he paused, Vala sat faithfully at his feet, tail tapping a gentle rhythm. At the end, a little girl raised her hand. "Mr. Brooks," she asked softly, "does Vala really know what justice means?" Aiden looked down at the dog, who met his gaze with unwavering loyalty. Then he looked at the girl and smiled. "No," he said, voice clear and quiet. but he knows what love means. A hush fell before the room erupted into applause. Vala glanced from Aidan to the children, as if he grasped every meaning behind his master's woe. Their story needed no grand speeches. Sometimes unspoken truth cut deeper than any argument. Aidan and Vala had been forged in silence, tested by war and domestic danger, and proven in the most unexpected of ways. They taught that courage isn't always a roar. Often, it's a whisper between a man and his dog. Sometimes, the loudest voice in the room is the one that goes unheard, until a single bark cracks the facade of lies and shakes the world awake. This is more than a tale of a veteran and his service dog. It's a testament to what happens when love refuses to yield, when loyalty becomes its own language. It reminds us that truth need not shout, it simply must be seen. Sometimes all it takes is a steady gaze or a quiet act of bravery to tip the scales of justice. And sometimes a single, well-timed bark is enough to change everything.